Before before we begin and opening the Torah study, before we begin the Torah study, I would like to open with a word of prayer. Almighty Father, there is no one like you, and there is no one to compare to you. You are alone in the heavens, and you are alone upon the earth. And Father Yahweh, you have given us the present and the blessing of being able to praise your name, to call upon your name, to meditate upon your name, and to even deliver ourselves unto Master Yahushua, that we may be honed upon thy name, so that we may be made into perfection. But to do all that, we must understand the word, your word, and what you have delivered, and what you have spoken unto us, for us to do, to be completely delivered and completely blessed by you. So I pray, Father, as we open your word, that you would release your spirit, the Kadosh spirit, upon your children, that you'd open our eyes and that our very inward parts will receive healing, direction, and release in you for all that we need. And may we receive our lessons, may we receive all the nutrients spiritually, mentally, and physically we need from your word. Because man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of Yahweh Elohim. So I pray, Father, that you would feed us and sustain us perfectly and completely today. B'Shem Master Yeshua, B'Shem Master Yeshua, B'Shem Master Yeshua. Amen. Amen. Long time no see. It's good to be back and have such a warm welcome. I am glad to present this week's Torah study, which will be taken from Numbers or Bemidbar, chapter 24. And when Balaam saw that it pleased Yahweh to bless Israel, he did not go as at other times to seek to use sorcery, but he set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam lifted up his eyes and saw Israel, and camped according to their tribes. And the spirit of Elohim came upon him, and he took up his proverb and said, the saying of Balaam, son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are opened, the saying of him who hears the words of El, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with eyes open wide. How good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel, like wadis that stretch out, like gardens by a river, like aloes planted by Yahweh, like cedars beside waters. He makes waters flow from his buckets, and his seed is in many waters. His sovereign is higher than Agag, and his reign is exalted. El, who brought him out of Mitzrayim, it is for them like the horns of a wild ox. He devours nations, his enemies, and he breaks their bones, and with his arrows he smites. He bowed down, he lay down like a lion, and like a lion, who would rouse him? Blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you. Then the displeasure of Balak burned against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. Balak then said to Balaam, I summon you to curse my enemies, and see, you have kept on blessing them these 3 times. And now, flee to your place. I said I would greatly esteem you, and see, Yahweh has kept you back from esteem. And Balaam said to Balak, did I not also speak to your messengers, whom you sent to me, saying, if Balak should give me his house filled with silver and gold, I am unable to go beyond the word of Yahweh, to do either good or evil of my own heart. But Yahweh speaks, let I speak. And now, see, I am going to my people. Come, let me advise you what this people is going to do to your people in the latter days. And he took up his proverb and said, the saying of Balaam, son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are open, the saying of him who hears the words of El, and knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with eyes wide open. I see him, but not now. I observe him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and shall destroy all the sons of Sheph. And Edom shall be a possession, and Seir shall be a possession, and shall be a possession, enemies, and Israel is doing mightily. And out of Jacob one shall rule, and destroy the remnant from Ar. And he then looked on Amalek, and he took up his proverb, and said, Amalek was first among the nations, but his latter end is to perish forever. He then looked on the Canaanites, and he took up his proverb and said, firm is your dwelling place, and your nest is set in the rock. But Cain is to be burned. Till when do Asher keep you captive? Till when does Asher keep you captive? And he took up his proverb and said, oh, who does live when Elohim does this? And ships shall come from the coast of Kittim, and they shall afflict Asher and afflict Eber, and so shall Amalek, and he also perishes. And Balaam rose and left, and returned to his place. And Balak also went his way. Praise Yahweh. The reading of chapter 24. Bemidbar 24 is a continuation of the Balaam and the Balak story. It continues with Balaam and his journey as a sorcerer. I believe this was truly the first time Balaam has ever witnessed the power of the spirit like this, because a lot of sorcerers believe that there is always a way or a taboo, a dark art that they can use to manipulate spirits. But we see now that in this chapter, Balaam has developed a peculiar, unique relation with the Most High, even as a master of the dark arts. He could have tried another form of magic or go to another high place, but in verse 1 and 2, we see that time and experience has changed, even humbled his spirit, not to turn him to a good person, but to a neutral party that only could have been used by Yahweh, because no matter what Balak said, he did the will of El, not man. And that's why we see, instead of using sacrifices and the whole numeric art of sacrifice tactic, he dropped it and simply lifted his eyes up. And in the instant, something changed. For Yahweh didn't just place a word in his mouth, but it said that the Spirit fell upon him. And we notice a change we notice this change by the acknowledgement of how he speaks, because for someone who is one of the best diviners, he spoke and he sounded 100% like a prophet of Elohim. For it says, usually Balaam would just respond with saying what Yahweh had commanded. But in this instant, he begins with an introduction, a declaration of power, and a testament. And that is what we find in verse 4. Verse 5 through 9 is a description of a blessing upon Israel from someone with you can almost say he has a doctorate or PhD in cursing and divining, using man as a prophet. It taught us that even today, every one of us got enemies like Balak and Balaam. One was power over land and physical things, and another who has power over spiritual things. And even though Israel had no clue what was going on, they did not need to know. Yahweh showed as long as the children of Israel are doing, or as long as his children are doing his commands, even now, arrows will fall as roses to your feet. For this to happen, one must be fully in Yahweh, following and trusting his word, guarding, giving no legal right to evil. For day and night demons try and argue why they should have rights to our lives, and they use legal rights of sin to get in. But if you seek forgiveness daily and actually try to obey all the Torah, then you do see a lot of the curses and these things that manifest change around you unexpectedly and maybe not in your liking, but it's all in the liking of Yahweh. And the end result is always a blessing and esteem through Yahweh. But, and I'll repeat that again, the end, and all we need to do is seek forgiveness daily and actually try obey all the Torah. Then we do see a lot of the curses and the things that manifest around us change unexpectedly and maybe not in our liking, but it is in the liking of Yahweh. And the end result is always a blessing and being esteemed through Yahweh. But to do that, to be able to achieve the blessing of verse 5 through 9, one must be like Israel was. Whether you are aware or unaware of danger, I shall obey all the commands of El, because he turns the curses to blessings, and this is the blessing in particular, and this blessing in particular, because Yahweh because he turns curses into blessings, because Yahweh humbled a Wiccan, a diviner, to such a level that he used his words not as one who was a dark master would typically use it, and when I say that, you can imagine someone like, I don't know, Dumbledore or some Harry Potter cast wizard. Imagine someone like that times 10, or just as bad times 10. But yet having him declare the ultimate blessing upon Israel. And as Yahweh told Abraham, so did this man confess again. Bless those who bless you, and cursed be those who curse you. Even though witnessed Balak witnessed all these matters, he still was, and he still was wrong, evil. And oh, now, even though Balaam witnessed all these matters, he still wanted to curse Israel. And this happens when one lacks faith, fear, and spirituality. It's almost a being with pride and ego before the destruction. And we see this when he scolds Balaam for blessing Israel. He immediately flaunts his wealth and physical strength, touting again the house of gold and silver. But naturally, the spiritual side, Balaam, he already gave it up from the beginning and said that whatever the word of Elohim was, that's what he would speak. So naturally, when he actually subsided completely and just outright blessed Israel, the physical side also lost automatically. So naturally, the spiritual side already subsided. And we see once that was done, they practically walk away from the situation, because no matter the blindness of Balak, Balaam saw, understood, and knew that that it was a lost battle. And before they departed, Balaam released another proverb, and we see again the declaration as in verse 4. He uses again before he speaks the proverb in verse 17 through 25. And speaking of war, he speaks of war, the factions that are included, and the winners and the losers. So it starts with the calling of the star, comes out of Israel and conquers Edom, and Seir falls. Sorry, and conquers. Edom and Seir fall to Israel, so shall Ar. And Abimelech, the first among many, is declared to be the last, and not just the last, but he also is utterly destroyed. Cain will be destroyed, but his people live. Asher burns Cain down, and Kittim attacks and afflicts Asher and Eber. Amalek joins in, but when he joins in, he also perishes. All this said in the spirit, from the spirit, but being blinded to the spirit, one must wonder, what did Balak take from all that interpretation? And yeah, yes, what we have to all wonder, after that deep interpretation, Balak being blinded, what really did he take from that interpretation and that proverb? And is each one of us strong enough in the Torah to be like Israel, fully being, fully living and being in the world, but obedient to Yahweh and to his word? For it should be, for if it should be anything that we take away, we should take away this. Take care of ourselves and obey the Torah. Take care of yourself and obey the Torah and work on yourself, then your loved ones. Don't worry about the enemy. Literally, you've got a lot, and if you worry on, if you worry, then you begin to lose. Sorry, literally, do not worry about the enemies. Worry not, but praise Yahweh and praise the living El in the moment. Then you have already begun to, if you haven't done this, you've already begun to play into the trap of the enemy. But if you actually praise Yahweh in the moment, out of the moment, whenever the Spirit calls upon you, and whenever you feel your spirit actually needs that encouragement and that protection, Yahweh will fight for you. But to do that, he needs your attention so that he can give you the plan. But if you are worried looking at the enemy or sinning, then you take the attention, off Yahweh, who wants to make you the star of the battle. But to be esteemed from El, one must have their attention on Yahweh and his word in their hearts, doing it and keeping no secret sin, nothing. Then and only then do we see curses turn to blessings and esteem from El, as he placed the blessing in Balak's mouth to esteem Israel. Israel did not know about it. Israel was following commands. Israel was in obedience. So when the moment comes, and Balak wants to curse, and Balak actually tries to curse Israel, it he actually humiliates himself. And Yahweh takes this as a perfect opportunity to bless Israel and show how something happens and we don't even see it or fathom the situation. But Yahweh is there taking care of us and leading us as he led Moshe. And even while he's doing this, Yahweh is also humbling and teaching lessons and still keeping everything and everybody together perfectly. As long as we stay in his word and give him attention, he would esteem us and give us the attention. So I actually titled this chapter The Power and the Wisdom of El. Questions and comments?
Praise Yah. Praise Yah for taking us through Bemidbar chapter 24. And you have given us a wonderful insight into chapter 24. And chapter 24 is very, very significant. Now, from Bemidbar chapter 22 to chapter 25, we are being schooled on what is going on around us, not only around Israel, and that period of time, which would have been around the 15th century, 14th century, before Common Era, more than 3,400 years ago. But what you see taking place there in the wilderness of Moab happens around us every single day. Happens around us because there is a battle that has been ongoing in the universe for millennia, for thousands of years, from the time of the first rebellion. And people, we as human beings don't realize that we choose sides. We choose sides by our actions, our willingness to obey Yahweh or disobey him. Our obedience puts us in his side. Our disobedience puts us in the side of the enemy. And you pointed out, Israel is in the wilderness going about her own business, its own business. They are oblivious to what is going on the mountains surrounding them. While they are enjoying the presence of Yahweh in the camp, in the community, you have a grand master. You say he has a PhD, and a sorcerer with a PhD is a grand master, an avatar. And that's what Balaam was. People knew that his curses was reliable. You know, you got people today doing the same thing. They're going to visit the voodoo man, the juju man, the obeah man, the white witch, the black witch, the sorcerer, all forms of witchcraft. And they're directed it against Yah's people, and Yah's people are oblivious to what is going on around them. Now, what is so wonderful here, and anybody who has a question or comment for the Torah study could just raise their hands and we can go straight into it. But what is wonderful here is that we see great principles and precedents that are set in this interaction, in particular in chapter 24, because we know that Balaam is a sorcerer, and he used sorcery to try and control an outcome from Yahweh. This is impossible. You can try, but it won't work. So this time he came without sorcery. And what happened is Yahweh spoke through him. And what Yahweh said is, and this is such a beautiful saying concerning Israel. And when I speak Israel, I speak about you and I, the descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who have been washed in the blood of Adon Yahusha, and is returning to our olive tree of Israel through obedience to the Torah. Here is Israel in a perfect spiritual state. And what is said here? How good and how lovely are your tents, O Yaakov, your dwellings, O Israel. That means when Yahweh says, I see no unrighteousness in Israel, Israel at this time is at a pure spiritual state. There's no legal right. And I'm glad that you're using those terms that I used in the circles. They have no legal right. Hashatan has no legal right to curse Israel because Israel is in a pure spiritual state. Now, when talking about legality and illegality, like you did, just to break it down for those who might not understand, illegality, spiritual illegality, is when an individual opens himself up to sin and separates himself from Yahweh. That gives Satan the legal right to attack, to possess, to oppress, and do everything else. But when it is illegal, he does not have the right. But we know that he's a thief and a murderer. He's come to kill, steal, and destroy. So he's going to try anyway. But because he does not have the right, Yahweh stands up. And Yahweh says that, and when you are in that state, this is when the word is fulfilled. No weapon formed against me prospers. Why? Because I am in a pure spiritual state. Good things happen because I am in a pure spiritual state. This is when Yahweh takes his word that I think it was Shaul who said it. All things work for good for those that love Yahweh. Balak intended evil, cursing, and Yahweh turned that opportunity into good for the blessing of Israel. And this is what we have available to us today. The fact that though there are persons around us, and like I said, there are people around each and every one of you and me, and around other believers that are actively targeting us. Some of them we know of, some of them we don't know of. But witchcraft is at its highest point right now on earth. And as a few people sent me a video about planetary alignment, I don't know if you've seen it. It's supposed to be a 7-planet alignment coming up on the January 25th. This is an opportunity that the evil ones use, the sorcerers use to try and channel energy to direct their witchcraft and sorcery. And I'm telling you, they're doing it at every level. They use that. We, in turn, once we are in tune with Yahweh, Yahweh puts that wall of fire around us and protects us as he does Israel. So the blessings are upon Israel. What was intended as a curse turns into a blessing, just like he says here. He causes Balaam to say here in, which verse is it? Verse 9. He said, Baruch is he who barak you. Blessed is he who blesses you. And cursed is he who curses you. That is what we have when we are standing in the spiritual state. And it appears from this chapter, and brothers and sisters, I'm talking so that people can get their questions together or their comments and statements together. I'm not doing a second Torah study. I am just filling in some blanks here. So you go ahead if you have a comment or question, please just give our hands up and we'll be more than willing. All right, Shamash. All right. Okay. Sakan Eliyahu.
Praise Yah. And Torah to you,
Shamash.
Shemash, sorry. Ariel.
Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron. I keep mixing up both of them. Aaron. I do appreciate this study, and I'm here contemplating on a few things as it might relate to us today. There's something we notice in this study here. Balaam, he took on the task, not because he wanted to curse Israel, but because he wanted money. Yes, he wanted money. And you would notice that there is a progression which took place. Because this oracle that he gave in the earlier parts of this chapter was the third one. The first one, in his first oracle, he went, but he failed to curse Israel. The second time he went, he actually blessed Israel. And now in this one, you notice he not only blessed Israel again, but he cursed those who would curse them. And as a result of that, he lost. Because the king, Balak, he started arguing about how much he would have spent. Because remember, this was now 21 altars, because this was the third time he had to build 7 altars. So he built 21 altars, he made 21 sacrifices of bulls and 21 sacrifices of rams. So he's now thinking that my money and my stuff has been wasted because I have expended all of this and I'm not going to get anything back. And so what does he do? He simply tells Balaam, go to your place. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. And that is a very important lesson to us today. Because how often have we known individuals go down a path that they think would bring them wealth, a path that they think will bring them fame, or might bring them position, because it doesn't have to do with money. But we separate ourselves from Yahweh, from his word, from commitment to his Torah, and we pursue something that we think will give us gain, and we lose in the end. And that is why he would have said to Shaul, was it Shaul, that to obey is better than sacrifice.
Samuel, to show.
Yes, Samuel said it to Shaul, right? Because of what Shaul had done. To obey is better than sacrifice. And I thought that was a very important lesson for us today. We can't expect to go against Yahweh and win.
Yeah.
We will lose. In the long run, we will lose. Who knows? We might gain some wealth today. But Yahushua himself asks, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? You see, and that is where Balaam was heading. He was heading to the loss of his soul until his eyes were opened. Until his eyes were opened. I'll just pause there for the time being. Praise Yahweh.
Thank you. That's a very good insight and just some revelation, Dr. Cardi. Especially a warning, not just a warning, but an advice for us in this time that no weapon formed against Yahweh shall prosper, and to actually obey his word. And obedience is better than sacrifice. I want to add on that too was the fact that you see two things at play, almost two sides of the same coin. You have one who's a master of the dark arts. One, and I mean, like when I say master dark arts, there's been books written where there's been sorcerers said to move stars, right? Literal stars. So you have people like that who exist, especially at this time. And you have another person, that's on one side. And on the next side of the coin, you have someone who is a master of the land and who has power over the physical land. So you have a two team coming at you. And when you realize, and I believe even before verse 9, when Balaam said, blessed is he who bless you and cursed is he who curse you, that he lost right on verse 4, when he proclaimed that Yahweh is almighty, because sorcerers and diviners don't use the name of Elohim. They actually they actually try to put it into a negative light, and they denounce it, they blaspheme, they do all that to make it look ugly. But the fact that right now he who was supposed to be doing that is now proclaiming that Elohim is the Almighty, when he knows he had contracts with a bunch of different spirits or this and that, he is giving all that up and saying that he knows that Elohim is the who sees the vision of the Almighty and who falls down with eyes open wide. So even though he's going down, he sees everything. He still sees the spiritual, and he sees even though if he's on his knees or who falls down lost, he sees the vision of the Almighty. So I think that, and it shows the difference of one who sees the spirit and one who doesn't see. Because Balaam already saw the lost cause from a long time ago, compared to Balak, who in verse 13 said, if Balak should give if who oh sorry, verse um 11, and he said, Yahweh has kept you back from esteem. That's when you only can see land, and you only can see when you only can see land and physical things. You can definitely say something that's stupid, you know. But that's why it didn't even move Balaam, because he really saw, he truly saw, and that's why he continued. And I like how he continued on even afterwards. And and after he proclaimed again, it's the first thing he says was, "I see him, but not now. I observe him, but not now. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise over Israel." So even then, it shows how far he saw. And he could be talking about King David. He could be talking about one of the great kings or Master Yahushua.
Actually,
Pardon me?
sorry to interrupt. That is a prophecy about Adon Yahusha. Adon Yahusha is the star that comes out of Yaakov. He is the ruler and the sovereign that comes out of Israel. He is the active agent bringing destruction on those nations that are mentioned from I think it's verse 15 all the way to the end. That is the actions of Adon Yahusha on all of those nations, prophesying that he is coming out of Israel, and this is what he will do. And it will affect these nations that are present in their day. It will affect them even to the end, to our day.
Well, I'm glad that I was correct then. That it was and thank you for solidifying the point, solidifying the answer that it was Master Yoshu. Because to continue what you're saying, the fact that he saw so far as he saw as Master Yahushua, he definitely knew that it was a lost cause. But it's almost like this, right? Imagine if a blind prophet, I know there was a blind prophet in Russia, a lady who used to be able to foretell like true events that came. But imagine if she fell with the spirit, right, and came to Donald Trump or Putin and was saying, Russia's gonna fall, this is gonna fall, this will happen. A star shall come, and actually the end of Revelation. But you have him saying, I could give you a house of this. I could give you all this land and give you Ukraine after I nuke it if you want, because that's all he sees. So you see again, that's what I'm trying to show is the people who are the difference in characteristics of those who have who walk in the spirit, good and bad, and those who don't see in spirit and who don't fear it. Their choices are vastly different than those who do see. And the choices of those who are good and bad in the spirit are vastly different. Because you both see the spirit, but both of you operate from different, one operates from the creator and one operates from a creature. So that's the difference in the planning and movement there. And that plays out in, I guess, we see that plays out in the battle against the righteous and those who actually have the dark arts. And those who have the dark arts work with those who don't see, but who have the physical powers in play because they need the direction of what they cannot see to help what they can see. Unlike
Okay.
Israel, who is all in one word, all in Torah, all in Yahweh, who controls the seen and unseen.
Okay. Zakan Elia has his hand up. But before you go, Zakan Elia, I just want to touch on that Russian lady that you're talking about, that blind prophet from Russia. That's not a servant of Yahweh. That's a sorcerer, just like Balaam.
Yeah,
Um,
I was saying that. I was just saying like I didn't say she was a prophet of Yah, but if a sorcerer like her, if the spirit of Elohim fell upon her, and I say she declared that she wouldn't have been any different from Balaam, who actually gave up all of that and would have been prophesying in the name of Elohim. And I was saying that if someone who have the spirit can see, right, and she said that, she would have been like Balaam, and Putin would have been like Balak because he could not see, who had the land and the power. But we know that she was not a prophetess of Elohim. But I was just giving a scenario that
okay.
if if the situation or the simulation of what happened to Balaam happened to her.
Okay, just wanted to mention that. Zakan Elia has his hand raised.
The kind of Eliyahu.
Yes, and as you're speaking about the same Russian lady and the dark prophets and so on, you know what came to mind? We have to be so careful when we listen to individuals to know that they're speaking what Yahweh says, and our focus should be more on what Yahweh says to us than on who is doing the saying. Too often, we find ourselves looking at the messenger and judging the messenger and determining whether we would accept or reject the message because of who the messenger is. We have to be so careful. Because even biblical scholars, historians, I would have read somewhere where there were some individuals who did not think that what Balaam was saying was coming from Yahweh himself, because they felt that because of the kind of person he was unworthy, to be a prophet, especially of such an important message as the prophecy concerning the coming of the Messiah. You see, and so we have to understand that the truth of whatever the scripture is given to us, or whatever message is coming to us, is not dependent on the orator or the writer, because there are even some individuals who would speak disparagingly about the scriptures simply because some of the writers of the scriptures did not have very excellent backgrounds. I mean, you think of Shaul, for example. He went around persecuting and killing Christians, and people would say, so how could he be writing scripture? And overlook the fact that he had the Damascus Road experience. Just as how Balaam had the road to Moab, is Moab he was going to when he met the messenger, and then
Yes.
the donkey spoke to him. So his experience was very similar to Shaul's experience in that they had that encounter. The difference is Shaul's encounter changed him, but Balaam still wanted to continue in his own selfish, greedy way. So I just thought of raising that and to say, that we have to be so careful that when the Ruach HaKodesh impresses upon us that this word is from Yahweh, that we listen and not look disparagingly on whoever is bringing the message. Praise Yah.
Praise
Praise Yahweh.
Praise Yahweh. I would just like to, in a way, fortify even more so what Zakan Elia has said, because it's very important that it is the message that should be the focus at all times. I know, in particular, Sharet Aliyah has for years been making statements saying they keep looking at the messenger and not listening to the message, and they're missing what Yah is saying. It is not about the messenger, but about the message. Now, and that is so true. Now, the message that Yah used before he used Balaam, he used Balaam's donkey. Now, that donkey is not a prophet, but at that time he was a vessel. Balaam is not a prophet of Yahweh. What he is a vessel being used because he sought to do harm to Yah's treasured ones. Yahweh used him to nullify the harm and invoke good. And again, what Sakan Elias said is very important. We need to look at the message and not necessarily the messenger, because it can come from anywhere. And if Yah has chosen the most despicable thing in this world to relay a message, we listen to the message because that's Yah speaking to us. And yes, that is extremely important. As a matter of fact, we're going to see in chapter 25 that it might appear in chapter 24 that Balaam did not receive reward. But Balaam took it a bit further. He went around the way to show Balak how to get Israel to become accursed directly from Yah. So if it's one takeaway, it's the message that is being spoken, not necessarily who speaks it. There are prophets that belong to Yahweh, and he uses them consistently all the time. Because Yahweh uses a donkey for a one-time occasion, doesn't mean that that donkey is his prophet. It means that a donkey was used as an agent of prophecy for that one time. And that could happen to anyone. But when you are a prophet in Yahweh, he calls you to be a spokesman for him. And he fills you with the Ruach HaKodesh, his spirit, that gives you utterance of what his mind says. So this is a very good chapter to point out a whole lot of things for us, especially because of the day that we're living in. These are things that we have to actually stand against. And we need to know every single aspect of our militant stand and also of the cachet of weapons that the enemy has that could be used against us. And Yah reveals it to us, and he empowers us to combat and overcome it.
Praise Yahweh. Praise Yahweh. Thank you, Kohen. Were you finished?
Yes, Aaron. Shemash.
I definitely agree with what you said and with what Shema Dr. Zakan Eliyahu said. And to sum it up, it's almost like what we used to say in the beginning, what we used to say early on in the congregation was don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And we used to say that, and boy, we used to tell the truth like a Uranian bomb afterwards. You'd be like, hey, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But let me tell you this: you could if you are a prophet, and you have to throw sorry, if you are receiving news from someone, especially who you really might not like, might really edge on your nerves, it is one of the rare circumstances, and it's one of the rare instances where the scripture, the word of Elohim, Yahweh, and the universe is telling you that you need to learn emotional intelligence and emotional control. Because you're all up in your feelings and you're all up in your emotions. And that can actually cause you to get blindsided and have pride and ego, which will turn to anger or could turn to lust, which both are different avenues that the devil would use. And then when if something bad happens from the prophecy, you're like, oh, that was gonna happen. You made it happen. And it all starts from how you received the word and how you let it settle into your inward parts. So having emotional control and patience is two strong suits, so that no matter who it is who's giving you the news, you can take the baby take a deep breath, throw the bath water out, put the baby aside, stomp on the bath water if you want to, then take the baby and go back and then go inside, you know? So it takes emotional control and patience and timing because the father knows that if he sent someone that is with that we don't like, we don't like that person. But that doesn't mean that he can listen to us because we are his children and he is the father. So he can still send that person anyway to help us become stronger so that we become emotionally stronger so that when bigger situations happen, we have a cool head and we can hear the word of Elohim clearly.
Praise
So
Yah.
so that can be a sign of if you don't like someone and they're giving you advice and you want to give them the stink eye and you really want to smash their toe, you just listen to what they have to say, take a deep breath, give Yahweh praise, even thank them for actually giving the word. And that in itself is a blessing upon you because it shows, especially in the bigger world, especially in the spiritual world, no matter who it is, if you're a vessel of Elohim, in that moment, I give thanks to the Father for the word and for the time that I can receive it before destruction or before whatever comes might have come, you know? And it gives you a good feeling too, because it makes you feel like, I could have said something, I could have given this guy or this woman a stink comment or remark, but I said thank you and I let it still go with me and I walk away rather than looking at them a long, awkward pause, long, awkward silence, looking them dead in the eye and being like, okay, okay, thank you. But saying like, thank you for actually giving the word, even though I really don't like you. But thank you because I needed it and I will actually take it into heart because if you say it was from the Father, then it's bigger than me and bigger than you. And you do not want to let your emotions literally stop you from having a host of silver and gold with no strings attached.
So Khan Eliyahu has his hand up.
Ariel?
Yes. Another observation. I noticed that when we came to the end of the chapter, we were simply told that both men went their own way. But as I think back on the experiences that these two men had and the way we have been discussing them, it would seem to me that we were giving Balaam some credit which was rightfully his, in the sense that although he was a sorcerer and false in his prophecy and so on, when his eyes were opened and he saw, he spoke truth to power. And I was wondering where we could find some credit for Balak himself. Well, we know what his objective was, to destroy Israel. But I believe he deserves some credit too. And here is where I think he deserves some credit for understanding where Israel's strength was. Because you notice, he did not initially put his soldiers together and say, let's go up and fight Israel. So he did not, in the first instance, depend on his military might or his strategy, because he would have seen how other nations had many, many more soldiers than Israel, and they were put to rout by the few soldiers that Israel had. In fact, in some cases, not even the whole Israel army was used to destroy particular nations. So it would seem to me that he knew that rather than being in a physical fight, he was going to be engaging in a spiritual battle. And I think he understood that if Israel was on the winning side of this spiritual battle, then they would surely win any military force that he would come against them with. And that says something to me, that as modern day believers, we should have the same awareness, in the sense that just as how Israel was a spiritual force to be reckoned with, I think it behoves us to build our spiritual resources, our spiritual strength. And as I said that, my mind goes back to a conversation I had with Andre yesterday afternoon. I hope he doesn't mind if I mention this. But it's a fitting example of what I'm speaking about. As we were discussing yesterday, I was sharing with him the importance of seeing the difference between what I am getting and what I am becoming. And when it comes to our spiritual walk, how many people trust in Yahweh mainly because of what they can get from him? Oh, he gives me a home, he gives me a wife, he gives me a family, he gives me children, he gives me a job, he gives me plenty money, I have a good bank account. And so he gives and he gives and he gives. But while he is giving us, what are we becoming? You see, and Balak saw that in Israel. He saw that they were becoming spiritually strong. And so he felt that he could only defeat them by having Yahweh curse them through Balaam. And today I believe that our strength should not be in what we have or in where we are placed in our community, but our strength, I believe, has to do with our positioning with Yahweh. How close we are walking with Yahushua. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. And I would pray for me, myself, that each day I get into a closer walk with Yahweh through the power of the Ruach HaKodesh and the example of his son, his being, Yahushua, our Mashiach. And brethren, I trust, I really pray that this would be the goal for each one of us, a closer walk with Yahushua and a deeper relationship with Yahweh, our Elohim, so that no force that the enemy brings against us will prevail, because Yahweh is on our side. And as he fought the battles for Israel, he will fight our battles today. Praise you. That thought just gives me, it leaves me elated, just thinking about it this way. Praise you. Sorry.
Praise Yahweh. I was just I was a bit lost in thought thinking about it myself just now, as you were talking. A lot of people do, and I am in agreement with you. A lot of people do pray to Yahweh, and they follow Yahweh, and all they do is ask, 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 and they do it for what they can receive. And and what came to me when you were saying this was, that's all good, right? But you'd be a child, you'd be almost like especially a very non-active child. Yes, you're eating the word, yes, you're doing all the word and stuff, but you're just so set on the physical things that you see still, that obviously you have ways to go. And this world is very made like that to keep you at a certain level of satisfaction spiritually. Because you're like, oh, I go to church on Sunday, I don't eat no pork, and that's good enough. That's good enough. But I make sure I do the thing that the Bible say, but after that, I have everything I need, I get from online and Temu when I get off eBay and all that. Like you have no, like you need a lot of spirit, you need a lot of physical things because you still have a lot of holes spiritually inside of you. And I realize a lot of people who are materialistic have a lot of holes inside them spiritually. Even who are righteous, they still have things that they need, or a particular diet of the righteous word and living they need to actually overcome that and see beyond it. Because I think with knowledge and power and understanding, if people really had that, they would not choose the physical things. But because the physical, a lot of the power and even knowledge and understanding is limited, it's translated into technology and the physical things. That's all people really search out for in this world, especially as we come into, as the generations come more and more. But when you have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and you realize everything begins in the spiritual world, first of all, and everything began with a word or a word from the mouth of Elohim. Truly, you realize and you begin to go into a relationship where you literally, your house is built at the footstool of He who actually is the author of creation, who holds the ether of creation, who holds the matrix of understanding, who holds all these things. So really, like all the information, all the wisdoms of the world is in the word of Elohim. And and you realize it can be like King Solomon who chased after the attention of Elohim, and doing thus he was given he was given all the power over the spirits, right? And this is what people who are very physical don't see, because they're like, oh, he had a big castle and all that. Who was told how was the castle built? It wasn't built with the hands of man. You know what I mean? It was built with all gold and emerald. It was built lavishly with all the things that are physical. But he didn't even have to work on that. He didn't work on it. He worked on the word of Elohim, and actually having the word of Elohim, being close, not just to the word of Elohim, but being close to Yahweh. And as the scriptures say, all these things he shall add unto you. And it's when I believe I hope, as Dr. Cardi said, people will really change and will really pray to actually have a close relationship to him. Because even if you don't get those things in this world, the world to come cannot be fathomed, and the riches and the peace and the power, the knowledge to come cannot be fathomed. That's why those who are the hungry, those who are the downtrodden, but who still stay in Yahweh, they have a big reward when Master Yeshua comes, because their actions in the physical spoke spiritually loud, very loud in the physical world. I hope that makes sense to everybody what I said. What I said just now about just following the word more, and following the word, you can damn you following the word, you will be blessed. And yeah, and I realize some people are happy with just a tin roof over their head and a slow crock pot under that, and they give thanks and praise. So it isn't we should not look we should not look or chase after the wealth and riches that are obviously going to be thrown into the lake of fire and probably burnt as well. We should chase after the word, and and after that, all things come to those who trust in Elohim. So I just want to just expand so much more on what Dr. Kali was saying, of just of having the word, believing in the word, and choosing the word. And whether it comes that you become a big shot like Abraham or not, you still live in the word. Because in the end, if you choose the word, if you choose riches and not the word, if you choose the riches and not the word, you definitely won't see Abraham. If you choose the word and not the riches, and you still get the riches, or not, you will still see Abraham because you have the word in you. And that's what really matters.
Praise Yah. Do we have any other comments or questions? Praise Yahweh, praise Yahweh, praise Yahweh. This chapter 24 really does speak to us today. And as Sakan Eliyahu highlighted, our trust in Yahweh, our total obedience to his word is what makes all of the difference in the generation that we're living in. As Shamash Aaron pointed out, that it isn't what we have or the things that we acquire. It makes no matter. If everything belongs to Yahweh, everything is given by Yahweh, then it is to Yahweh our attention should be directed 24/7. Nothing else matters. As a matter of fact, I'll say this, Shamash, before we bring our Torah study to a close, is this. While attending funeral last week, it became so evident that persons are deluded into pursuing material things and wealth, thinking that they need it in order to survive. You don't need it in order to survive. Our lifeline is the Yahweh. Everything we desire is in him. When we seek him first and the righteousness of his kingdom, everything that we need is given. And it's always according to his time and his methodology. It is up to us to believe and to trust. Amen. Praise Yahweh, Shemash Aaron, for leading us into a wonderful study of Bemidbar, chapter 24. I want to encourage everybody to read ahead, chapter 25, as we continue the saga and the history of our ancestors, teaching us of how we should live today through the situations that they encountered while in their journey and their existence. Shemash?
Praise Yahweh. And I really do hope we all take what all Cohen said. And with all that, I would like to bring it to a close and with a prayer. Almighty Father, to whom there is no one to compare, we come before your presence with thanksgiving, with open eyes, Father, and our head brought low, thanking you, Father Yahweh, for your wisdom, the water of life, your education, you giving us education, not just the education of this world, but the word itself, teaching us how to apply it to our lives and how to apply emotional intelligence, how to apply the word in this time. Father Yahweh, I pray that we would absorb the word and everything that you express and open up to us today. And maybe actually pray that your desire will be our desire and our desires in our fleshly hearts to be aligned with you and with your desire so that our purpose will be fulfilled on earth. We will be fulfilled and we would not be empty on earth. But we would know who we are, know what we supposed to do, and actually know what we actually achieve and do it. And know what we want to do, what might lead us to destruction. Father Yahweh, bless the works of our hearts and make it clear to each person your desire in our lives so that we may pursue and we may achieve it to bring fulfillment and to bring a sweet smelling fragrance into your nostrils. Please bless us today as we continue to worship you in spirit and truth. I pray. B'Shem Master Yahushua. B'Shem Master Yahushua. B'Shem Master Yahushua. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And amen.